Friends, gather round because tonight we're diving into the wild world of international trade. Specifically, we're talking about former President Trump's trade policy, which can best be described as a tariff tango. In 2025, he slapped a 10% tariff on practically everything coming into the US. That's right, everything. From Chinese electronics to German cars, it all got hit with a Trump tax. His stated goal? To shrink the trade deficit and bring back manufacturing jobs. Sounds good, right? Well, hold your horses because things ain't always as simple as they seem, especially when it comes to economics. Now, 12 states, the brave souls, decided to sue the Trump administration over these tariffs. They called them illegal tax hikes, and they argued that these tariffs would actually hurt the economy, not help it. These states understood that Trump's obsession with the trade deficit was like focusing on the pimple and ignoring the raging hormonal imbalance underneath. The trade deficit is a complex beast. It's not just about how much stuff we buy from other countries, it's about a whole web of interconnected financial flows. And Trump, in his infinite wisdom, seemed to miss that memo entirely. Let's talk about the trade deficit, that big scary number that kept Trump up at night. It's true that the US has been running a trade deficit for decades. In fact, in 2024, it ballooned to a whopping $1.2 trillion. But here's the thing, a trade deficit doesn't mean we're losing money. It's not like we're sending $1 trillion in cash overseas and getting nothing in return. The Trump administration loved to point to the decline in US manufacturing jobs as proof that the trade deficit was killing us. They conveniently forgot to mention that automation and increased productivity have also played a major role in those job losses. Economists, those killjoys who actually understand how these things work, kept trying to explain to Trump that trade deficits are often a sign of a strong economy. When we buy goods from other countries, we're not just getting those goods, we're also freeing up resources to invest in things we're good at, like technology and services. It's called comparative advantage, and it's kind of a big deal. Here's where things get really interesting. That trade deficit? It doesn't just disappear into thin air, it comes back to us like a boomerang made of cash. How, you ask? Well, let me break it down for you. Service inflows. Remember how I said we're good at services? Well, other countries pay us big bucks for things like finance, education, and entertainment. That's a service surplus, folks, and it helps offset the goods deficit. Foreign direct investment. When a company in China wants to build a factory in the US, that's foreign direct investment. It creates jobs, boosts the economy, and guess what? It's often financed by those trade deficits. Equity inflows. Ever heard of the stock market? Yeah, well, foreigners love investing in US companies. They buy our stocks and bonds, pumping money into our economy, the almighty dollar. The US dollar is the world's reserve currency, which is a fancy way of saying that everyone wants a piece of the action. Foreign governments hold trillions of dollars in reserve, and that demand helps keep our interest rates low. So, the next time someone starts ranting about the trade deficit, just remember the boomerang effect. That deficit is coming back to us and it's bringing friends. Now, back to Trump's tariff tango. While he was busy obsessing over the trade deficit, he seemed to forget about the law of unintended consequences. See, tariffs might sound good in theory, but in practice, they often backfire like a cheap lighter. First off, tariffs raise prices for consumers. Remember those tariffs on Chinese goods? Yeah, those got passed on to you and me in the form of higher prices on everything from smartphones to sneakers. Inflation, anyone? Second, tariffs can hurt US businesses. When we slap tariffs on imported materials, it makes it more expensive for American companies to produce their goods. That makes them less competitive, both domestically and internationally. And finally, tariffs can lead to retaliation. Other countries aren't just going to sit there and take it when we start slapping tariffs on their exports. They're going to retaliate with tariffs of their own, and then we're all stuck in a trade war, which is about as much fun as it sounds. The bottom line is that trade is complex. There are winners and losers, sure, but trying to eliminate the trade deficit through tariffs is like trying to cure a headache by banging your head against a wall. It might feel good in the moment, but it's not going to end well. So, let's all take a deep breath, put down the tariffs, and try to understand the nuances of the global economy. It's messy, it's complicated, but it's the world we live in. And who knows, we might even learn something along the way.